And this evening, we're going to be chatting surrounding on the backdrop of the budget speech that was declared or tabled yesterday. Finance Minister Inokondo said South Africa has one of the most comprehensive social safety nets among emerging economies. In his budget, he allocated over 284 billion to social grants. That's over the fiscal year. Out of 60 million South Africans, roughly 28 million are dependent on social grants. From the child support grant to disability grants, old age grants, or the war veterans, each category received above inflation increases. My guest this evening is Elizabeth Raiters. She is an independent social grants activist, and she joins me now. Good evening, Elizabeth, and welcome to Prime Live Ramadan edition.
Good evening, and good evening to the listeners as well, and the viewers as well.
Excellent. Elizabeth, we kick off by asking the question, do you agree with the finance minister's description that South Africa is one of the most comprehensive social safety nets for an emerging economy?
I agree somewhat with it in Africa because a lot of countries in Africa does not have social grants yet. They are still busy implementing it. In actual fact, I was with a group from social protection last year, and I hosted them, and it was like people from activists from all over Africa that was also attending, and they were actually looking at South Africa, of how South Africa is actually distributing grants to the poorest of the poor.
Are there any of the other countries in Africa that have, albeit not as developed as South Africa, but already have some sort of social grant system in place?
Yes, I do know of Kenya and I do know of Namibia as well. I know there was a trial run of the basic income grant in Namibia, and it was very successful. And I think South Africa can actually learn from there.
This is interesting to take note of. Now, in yesterday's budget, Finance Minister declared a sum of 284.7 billion rand that will be spent over the year, distributed monthly to 28 million of the population who receive one or other grants. Do you believe this is sustainable both for the country and similarly, is it sustainable for the people who rely on these grants?
I do think it's sustainable for the country. I do think it's time that South Africa actually introduces wealth tax. We are a country that doesn't have wealth tax, that doesn't tax the rich. So I think if the minister really wants to get us some finances to support the social grants because the unemployment rate is so high, he should actually introduce a wealth tax. And I think that will actually help to sustain the grants. But I'm not really happy with the increase because he also increased VAT. So, which means that food prices will again be increasing. Also, I won't only just speak on the SRD that wasn't increased at all, which has already lost its value since 2020 when it was introduced. It was introduced at 350, and in the past 5 years, has only been gone up with a 20 rand. And the 370 is actually not at the current moment serving its value because it does not have value. And then we can also go to the children's grant, the CSG. 30 rand for a child per year is nothing. Let me tell you, I know of beneficiaries who have kids. If you choose this month that you're going to buy for your child a pair of school shoes, a pair of school shoes is 500 rand nearly. That is the whole grant, which means if you buy that shoes for that month, that child is going to go hungry. If we look at the price of bread, bread is over 20 rand a loaf. These children go to school. They're stationary. These children have needs of toiletries. Children have a lot of more needs. And the government really to just increase it by 30 rand, I don't think that makes really sense for the CSG as well.
Elizabeth, we come back to the SRD grant that you referenced. Whilst the increase has somewhat been negligible, as you correctly highlighted, providing and citing numerous examples, we know that this is going to be phased out come March 2026. In lieu of such, were you hopeful of a more positive stance on the basic income grant?
I hope that they do introduce the basic income grant because it has been on the table for a few years now, and it has has actually mentioned about the basic income grant towards September 2025. They cannot get rid of the SRD without introducing a basic income grant. As you know, the unemployment rate is high in South Africa, and also we have an age criteria in South Africa where all jobs are advertised at 18 to 35 years old. So if you are older than 35, it's very, very hard to find a job. And you only get your next grant when you're 60, and that's your old age grant. So how are these citizens supposed to survive? So he needs to come up with a positive he needs to come back with positive feedback towards the basic income grant. And I also think if it does introduce the basic income grant, it will be very good for South Africa economically.
So the minister prided his tabling of the budget speech on mentioning that all of the increases were above inflation, right? So that's across the board. Do you see this as an effective way to, in a real sense, address growing poverty and inequality?
In the real sense, on the ground, working with beneficiaries every day, that increase doesn't really mean anything, especially with that's gone up. Food prices rise every month. You go to the store this month, the price will be 10 rand. When you go next month, it will be 15 rand. The following month, it will be 18 rand. And it just goes up and up. So really, we don't even have price control in South Africa, which is also very important. If we even can do price control, because retailers are scoring big time by just inflating prices at any time of the year. Yet these grants only get the increase once a year. So this increase is really not actually serving a purpose if you're on the ground and living on the ground with beneficiaries out here in the world.
Elizabeth, then the minister would somewhat have countered these concerns that you are raising, and I agree with you, they're 100% legitimate, um, by saying that, look, the number of food items that have been zero rated for VAT has been increased, right? Do you see this as a means of somewhat offsetting the very, as the minister put it, very small increase by zero point 0.5 percentage points?
I can tell you, yes, actually put more items into the zero rated VAT basket. But as I said, we don't have price control in South Africa. So he can say that zero rated VAT, but then the retailers will put the price up of these items to still make money because there's no price control in South Africa. So at the end of the day, it won't serve any value to South Africans.
I think that the key takeaways from our discussion for me, as you mentioned, number one, that prices increase monthly from the side of retailers, particularly retailers that are retailing fast-moving consumable goods and consumables, particularly edibles that everyone requires in order to sustain themselves. That being one. The other you mentioning with regards to some more rigid monitoring of prices and these increases, which would be something that would help the poorest of the poor. Seeing that this is your area of expertise, how can those who are interested in gaining assistance with regards to their grants be in touch with you?
Okay, my WhatsApp number is 078 So any beneficiaries that have real queries with the SRD can send their messages via WhatsApp to me. Even beneficiaries who require the EKYC link, because I do know some of them have been waiting since last year, June, for the EKYC link. They must just know that they do have to have a smart card ID in order to receive the EKYC link. So if they do have a smart card ID, they can WhatsApp me their ID numbers and the cell numbers, and I will request the verification link for them.
Thank you for this, Elizabeth. Naturally, it's been excellent chatting surrounding all aspects surrounding the grants and the amount that has been allocated to them in the budget, etc. If you had a few moments to share critical information, directives, guidelines, advice with our viewership surrounding how we navigate the current situation, number one, and how more people can partner with you in terms of the advocacy that's required for the poorest of the poor, what would those directives or guidelines be?
I would actually say the most important thing yeah, that we need to do is assist beneficiaries. Assisting beneficiaries directly is actually a good help because you're the bridge between the Department of Social Development and the beneficiary. And that way, the beneficiary doesn't have to go through the call center because majority of the time the call center is giving beneficiaries wrong information and they're not trained, so majority times they don't know what's going on. So it's better to have activists like us on the ground that's working directly with SASA in assisting these beneficiaries. And I must say, SASA has been very helpful in assisting these beneficiaries with their queries and actually solving them. So if any beneficiary have like uh, say they've had approved for 12 months, uploaded bank details have been verified, and they haven't received payment dates, they must please contact me because there might be a duplicate account, something the call center staff does not know at all. So it's better if the beneficiary contact me.
Elizabeth, coming back to the number that you shared with us earlier, I managed to grasp the first few digits, 078, and what were the remaining
Six
digits?
one
61.
6175 489.
So, beloved viewers, I'm going to share that number with you once again. It's 078 617 5489, which would allow you to be in touch with Elizabeth Raiters. Elizabeth, I'm sure you'd be more than happy to field both voice calls as well as WhatsApp messages so that you could assist many more people.
Yes, I do. People just need, the beneficiaries just need to be patient as I deal with the whole of South Africa. But I do get to all the queries and try and solve as much queries as I can to make sure that the beneficiaries have a plate of food at night.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, circling back to your previous directive or guideline to us surrounding how we would be able to assist to be part of that campaign of doing our part in the individuals based on our somewhat limited capacity or what we perceive to be limited capacity. You mentioned that one of the first things we can do in terms of assisting those who are eligible for grants is to assist them with registration. And when it comes to registration, naturally, a good number of those, not all, but a good number of those who require assistance with registration are somewhat on the one side of the digital divide. So they may not have access to smartphones, they may not have access to digital telecommunication, etc., etc. And I think the take home for me from this is that by you assisting a person who's eligible for a grant in terms of facilitating their registration, you somewhat have opened up a window of opportunity, albeit that we discussed this window is somewhat small. In real terms, the increases in the grants are negligible as opposed to being substantial, but that somewhat takes a burden of the people in the community in terms of looking after the basic needs for fellow citizens, for those around us. I would also think, and Elizabeth, you can share your input, that there would be a sense of dignity, a heightened sense of dignity for those who receive the grants because they don't have to, as we would say figuratively, go cap in hand asking from all and sundry.
I can tell you, I myself am a beneficiary of the SRD grant, but I get declined every month. I work on limited resources currently. I use my own data. I'm unemployed. I use my own data to assist beneficiaries. I would love if I could get a sponsor for data. And then also I use a broken mobile phone, which is not actually working properly anymore. But somehow, because I assist beneficiaries via WhatsApp and I also liaise with SASA via WhatsApp, I somehow get the job done with my limited resources. So yeah, because I'm independent, the only lack I have is of resources is a proper phone and data. That's all, and I will do my level best to try majority of the people in South Africa that I can.
Excellent. Elizabeth, other than being able to contact you or follow the work that you're doing by being in touch with you via your mobile number, Do you have a presence on any of the other social media, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, X, etc.?
Uh, I used to be on Facebook under by the grant, but because I've gone independent now, and I'm in the process of registering my own NPO, which will be up and running soon. Then I will create pages, but beneficiaries can just Google my name, and when they Google my name, my whole profile comes up with all my interviews, even my contact details come up as well. And in some interviews, if they don't get my phone number, in some interviews, my telephone number appear, but it does appear on Google as well.
Excellent. Elizabeth, I really want to thank you for the time that you've given us in terms of bringing us up to speed with the, as you mentioned, the facts on the ground from working with people on the ground surrounding the different types of grants for the benefit of our viewers. That number, once again, 078-617-5489. And a challenge to our viewers, Elizabeth, I'm sure you know it's the month of Ramadan. It's a month of sharing. It's a month of
Yes.
caring. It's a month of empathy. So if there's someone out there who has that phone in your bottom drawer after having done your upgrade, uh, if you could perhaps volunteer that phone for Elizabeth, trust me, it would be more than just putting someone in touch with the rest of the world. It would be facilitating the way for so many of the most vulnerable, downtrodden citizens in our country. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Elizabeth, for the time that you've shared with us.